All right, let's get started. It's June 2nd, and we're going to go over sort of another verification method for entry that a member had put together, or was putting together, and I was helping him with. I wanted to share with you just to kind of demonstrate sort of the pros and cons. And there is a lesson there to just be aware of. I'm working on a different method for staying out of the chop, so I want to just give you a quick update on that. And then the key thing now is item number 3, which is the automated adding and where we stand with that. So we're at a point where we just need to burn in the system. And then, as Jim pointed out, I owe you a tutorial on how to set it up so that you can call for a prediction when you want, as opposed to just using my behaviors. So we'll talk about when I can get that done for you. All right, so what another member had been doing was looking at a different way to... Let me just add this real quick. Looking at a different way to do the entry. You know, we have a VBAR2 entry, and then he wanted to add some extra filters. And so what he did is he put in a moving average, exponential. This is a 9-period moving average. And the basic rule was, okay, if I get a signal, just follow the normal VBAR2 entry rules. But if it's a long, the bar has to be completely above the 9 EMA. Or, for a short, completely below. Okay? Not just closing above or closing below, but completely on the other side of it. Okay, and so we kind of went back and forth a bunch of times, iterating, me not understanding what he wanted to do, him not knowing how to do it. And I wanted to share with you the results of applying that filter to the entries across both sets of baselines. That's this one here. All right, so this is what it looks like here. Let's see, let's start with this side here. This is well, actually, no, let's go the other way. Can we do that? No, it won't let me do that. Here. All right, so this is the 0202 model starting from March 9th. All right, so the beginning of the M contract using the volatile model. There's no noise filter at all here. All right, so normally, well, actually, there's noise filter here. There's no noise filter here at all. All right, and also these are all aggressive codes plus breakouts. So it's not just moderate. All right, and using noise filter of 0. In other words, don't do anything to try to stay out of the chop. Just use this method of, is the bar completely above or completely below the 9 EMA. This is the result from, for March, okay? And then with noise filter of 4, so trying to stay out of the chop, that's the result. All right, so quite a bit less. All right, in other words, my read on that would be that the method for trying to stay out of the chop just keeps you out of stuff that you want to be in, and the filtering mechanism of being above or below the 9 EMA is doing a good enough job. Okay, and then here it is at the end of April, and you'll see actually that it's kind of caught up to each other. All right. You'll also notice this block here. This was a really rough time in the markets. Every single attempt at different settings has this big block of trouble here. One thing to notice about this particular approach is I have the profit and loss column coded so that it's yellow if it is a loss day, but it's red if it's a loss of more than $100. And so one thing that, that what should really sort of jump out at you is that there are a lot less max loss days doing this, and I think kind of that was this member's goal. All right, so you're taking lots of days where there's little losses, a handful of max loss days here. Only one within F4. Only 2 total through. Well, actually no, because it keeps going down. So anyway, the end result is basically the same whether you're using noise filter 4 or noise filter 0. Using noise filter 4 keeps you have a fair number of less max loss days. Okay, all right. Now and again, these are basically the same here, right? You're looking at the cases where there's a loss on one but not on the other. These are all pretty small. So what I find, what's interesting is that there. Okay, so there's a case where this is why it's flipping, right? You're getting caught in some chop on the right hand side, and there wasn't a lot of that or as much of that in this first period, right? And then you get sort of more normal conditions, I suppose, and it ends up about the same, okay, except that noise filter 4 using this method has quite a bit fewer max loss days. In fact, only 3 in the period from March through the end of May. Though note, there are days where you don't take any trades. That's why these are blank. All right. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, the lesson here is coming, though. So this is not bad, right? This is March, April, May, $2,000, 40% return on capital. Not a bad result, and no day where it's really nasty. It would actually not be quite this bad because if you're following your risk management rules, this block here won't be quite so big. You're supposed to stop if you're getting well. These are smaller losses, so I guess it would be the same. If you get 3 max loss days, you're supposed to stop for the week. So sometimes when we do these runs, these replays, we don't take that into account. We just look at the final number. Okay, so now, but let's look at the December period, the December-January period. And the reason that's important is that these are pretty active markets right now. In fact, they're among the most volatile I've seen. All right, and so how would it perform during more normal times would be the question, all right? And so that's what's over here. This is the December through, or the December through January period. And I think it's actually quite a bit worse. And the reason is that your total gain is really not that much. This is an F4, noise filter 4. $300. You're basically just covering costs. There's no cost involved here. $600 if you're using no chop avoidance. All right, and so the lesson here is be careful about optimizing a system and not recognizing that it is applicable only to a certain market condition. Okay, so that market condition is this level of volatility. All right, March 9th here, March 9th is this green line right here. So from here forward. All right, so this is pretty volatile stuff here, pretty big ranges. All right, so just you have to keep it in mind. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea or don't do it. I'm just saying remember that when the market gets back down to these days, that you might need to make some adjustments if you want to pursue this approach. Okay. Okay, Dave's got a good question. When were they started? So the way I run the baselines are all the same. That in order to make them compare correctly. So for quiet markets, it's all 635 to 9, and for the volatile markets, it's all 705 to 9. Okay. So now I can compare. What we haven't done yet, what we're about to do, is compare this to sort of the normal baseline, right? Just the noise filter 4 and noise filter. All right. And so I always do that. 630 to 9, 635 to 9 for the what I call the baseline period, the normal market conditions, and then 705 to 9 for the more volatile times. Okay. Is it here? Where is it? Okay, so here, and this is what's kind of important here, is that while this is, this method that uses the 9 EMA to filter, this is just the normal amount. This is just the normal approach. Noise filter of 4 for both. One is using go in on the signal. The other is using VBAR 2. Okay, using the 1207 model for the December-January period. All right, about the same for December. December was a rough month, and then ultimately about the same for January. Okay, bigger blocks of max loss days is the difference here. Okay, you can see VBAR. You can see the impact of VBAR 2 in that these blocks are smaller, but look at the difference. Let's just call this 2,000 in gain. All right, compared to the best here is 635. All right. So, data for you to think about. All right. My take would be this approach is a good way to help you if you struggle with these max loss days in the current volatility. It's easier to swallow, $80, $25. But if the market's quiet back to normal, I think you'll find that you just end up scratching out. You may need to be more aggressive than this. All right. Okay. Any questions? No. All right. So what I have started doing, I was chatting about it in the room this week. What I have started doing is looking at a different way to, let me remove this, to stay out of the chop. And that method is by looking at where are these points relative to each other. So I call it the wave delta. So the data that I have in the machine learning system is how far away am I? How far away for every bar? How far away is price from the previous 3 waves? And what we're trying to do is do a better job than the current noise filter that we have. The current noise filter that we have uses this 89 EMA here. And we look at the slope of this, and if it's too flat, then we say, okay, the market's just sideways, don't trade. And there's a couple of problems with that. The biggest problem is what you see here. And when there's a sharp move up, it takes a long time for this to figure out that it's sideways. Like this is dead sideways here. I do not want to trade in here at all. But the current noise filter method will not work. It can't catch up quickly enough. Okay. In fact, it's no lagging indicator is going to be able to do it. basically. All right. The other problem is when the market is doing this. Big moves, but basically sideways. This will show up as flat, but there's good trading in here because these are big moves. And so that's the two problems with the current method that we're using to say, okay, I don't even want to trade. All right. So I'm tackling this first case, this first issue first. All right, which is, let's take a look at this piece right here. I can tell very simply, actually, that this is sideways now, just by looking at those 4 points. All right, and so I've started building that logic so that we can test it and see if I'm right or not. The current method we're using, we've tested it. We know what the results are. It's a known quantity. The question is, can I do it better, right? I've got baseline information. We just looked at that, right? Right here, I've got baseline information that says, all right, this is, if I just use my noise filter 4, this is what I can get using that model on that time frame. So now build this new method and then run the same replay and see if are you better or worse. All right. So I've actually started building that to get a sense for how does that idea even work. I did look at Michael. I did look at the higher high, higher low idea, and I might end up building it in parallel and comparing. My problem with what you're doing is that you have to specify a number of bars, and I don't like that. So Michael's using for those of you that might be interested in it, is highest high, lowest low over n bars. And what this does is it defines over the last n number of bars, so you have to tell it 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 bars. Give me the highest high and the lowest low. And you can use that to help understand if the market is moving or going sideways. Again, Michael, the problem that I have is that you have to tell it 3 or 4 bars, and that might be fine, but conceptually, I'd like it to adjust better to like this case here, where there's a lot of bars in this wave, more than 3, and so my idea is, all right, look at these points. I don't want to take a long in this condition here, not until you break out. All right. In fact, what I'm currently working on is, as soon as I have 2 points that are that close to each other, don't take any longs. Longs are off the table. I'll take a short here. I'll take a long right there because I've only got 1 point. So here, this would be fine. But as soon as this wave completes, right there, now I've got 2 points that are telling me, all right, don't take any longs yet. All right, that's the current thinking. So we'll see, and then what we specify as well, how close do they have to be to each other in distance from each other. All right. And an open question would be, do you need 2 or 3? I don't know. We'll see. And so the way this worked right here is, all right, I'll take a long here, but as soon as I get that point there, in other words, as soon as the market goes to there, I'm not willing to take long anymore. I'll take a short. I've only got 1 short point right there. But as soon as I go up now, okay, now I'm just done. It's got to break out now before I'm going to do anything. Okay, that's the logic. An open question would be, okay, but would you want to take breaks or not? That would be something to think about for a break entry. We've had that question already, actually. do we want to take breaks even when the market says it's sideways? We've not answered it. This would be a cleaner way to do it, because you're very clearly going sideways. It's not some lagging indicator suggesting I'm sideways. You've got evidence in the turn you have a real number that says, yeah, there's a range, and I know exactly where it is, and I know how far apart they are from each other. All right, so I actually did this. I built an initial test that used this logic. It said, if I've got 2 points that are within X ticks of each other, don't take a long. And if I've got 2 bottom points that are within X ticks of each other, don't take a short. All right. And I ran that just for January, just to get a sense for how it works. And where did it go? And that's what this is. Okay. And so on the left is what the parameter was actually that, hold on. The parameter was that these points, if they're within 10 ticks of each other, then it's you consider it sideways. So you need to be one more than 1 bar higher. All right. So all through here, this is all going to go. You can't take a trade through here. Not until you set that point can you take a long now. Okay. And that this 10 ticks value is configurable. I just picked a number. All right. What this shows, so there's no noise filter concept here. It's just a wave delta now. What this shows is for January, using aggressive codes plus break and a wave delta. That's what I'm calling it. A wave delta with 10 ticks. That was the total. Okay. Moderate plus breaks using a wave delta 10. That was the total. All right. So, okay, that's interesting. I kind of like that you could use aggressives and do better. It's just 1 month. All right. 10 ticks maybe not be the right value. But how does this compare to the normal just noise filter 4? All right. Now, I don't have aggressive data for that, but I do have moderate data for noise filter 4 somewhere. Where did I put it? Hang on. It's here. All right, so on the right this is noise filter 4, right? Moderate plus aggressive. I'm sorry, moderate plus break. All right, and here's January only. This is why this is listed here. All right, that makes 2460 in January using just noise filter 4. So this method, quite a bit less. All right, let me go play around with that and see if there's I need to look at the differences too. What's different about them? Is it because I'm taking more losses, or I'm keeping myself out of good trades or not? Just logically, I would expect to be able to do better with what I've described here, logically. But that may not be the case because just to the nature of it's a complex environment and there's a lot of probabilities involved. Okay, so the message here is that I'm looking at that. I'm actively working on it. I don't have an answer one way or the other yet if it's better or not. It's interesting though, because when I look at this, I go, I don't want to take a trade in here. Like this trade here, to me, that's a stupid trade. I don't want to do that. So I'd expect to be able to get that, and it becomes a question of how many times do you end up taking a trade in here that works out just because, and the flip of the coin. Yeah, Michael. So I kind of agree with you that the method that you implemented is better, I think, than this. I say I think because it's really easy to assume that your idea that works on 1 or 2 days is better. But you can't. You got to do what I've done here. So if nothing else, you take away from today, look at the level of rigor that goes into assessing. Is that good or not? Okay. This is what you have to do. You can't just look at a day or two. You got to look at a bunch of days. All right. Nevertheless, I would expect to be able to do better than the noise filter method that we're using. We'll see. All right, we'll find out. It's interesting to look at. What I haven't done is taken a day where there's obvious stupid trades like this and compared them to see. Or what I haven't done yet is looked at where did it go? Looked at these results here, profit P&L. Looked at these results, particularly the good results, like the 29th and the 30th, and compared it to this. Okay, so there's a good example. If you look at that, on the 30th, this actually, I guess it would be over here. The 30th shows $45 using moderate codes. Here it shows, $5.95. It's hugely different. So that would be a very interesting day to go look at and see. Okay, well, why? Well, what happened there? Why is it that this is so much better? And then is there a way to adjust the logic? Am I too tight on the number of ticks? Yeah, things like that. The other thing that I find interesting is that I want to go run I see this difference here, and that has me really curious, because this is almost every single. This is the aggressive plus breaks. This is almost every single code in the system, and so I'm wondering if by switching to wave delta 10, we can find more, those cases where, that's too aggressive, but then we end up not taking it because we don't take that code. But you can see the market's running away. Usually it's these runaways. So what I'd like to do is go run a baseline here that uses aggressive codes as a way to help me compare to this, to understand, is it useful or not? In any case, it's a very fertile field there. There's a lot to be done with, I think, a lot of potential. So I'll keep you updated. So yeah, so this is the other case to think about, is that right now a break here where the market says it's sideways, we would not take because we don't make a difference. But here, this looks to me like in this scenario, I have a much clearer idea that yes, the market is actually going sideways. It's not I'm not relying on some laggy indicator. And so re-examining how we deal with breaks is something that needs to get looked at very seriously here now. All right, so a break, like a failed break here, I'm interested in that. Absolutely. Even a successful break, right? That code, those sets of codes it looks to me like it's worth examining, setting up special code to see how it behaves if you stay out of the chop for all the codes except the breaks. Okay, so again, pretty fertile ground. Comments. So Dave, Dave is asking about a different EMA, and the problem is that you either end up, if you get too short, then you just get whipped back and forth, You end up taking trades you don't want to take. It doesn't work out. I've tried it. This has to be long enough to be useful to what is the trend of the market. If it's too short, then it ends up just sort of following the waves themselves. So it just doesn't work out. I've been down the road. When I first set up the noise filter, I looked at that 89, 55, 34, different levels, and too short, and you end up taking trades in here because your EMA is too short. Your fundamental problem is it's laggy. It's too laggy. And what I'm describing is not laggy at all, because it's specific data about price compared to the current waves. So that's why I think that with some effort it will be better. But we'll find out. I'm a smart guy and I'm persistent, so we're going to find out one way or the other. The wild card in all this is just the basic randomness of the market. So, when the market just breaks out from one of these, okay, that might be why it's okay, the current method. You end up taking a stupid trade like this here. But it also works out because sometimes, that works. All right. So we need more data is kind of the message there. All right. Hang on. The system here is trying to connect, and it's causing trouble. All right. Then what else was on our list? Okay. So automated adding. Okay. So here's where we stand with automated adding. The problem we were having is that we don't want to go in at the market, so we have to place a limit order, and then we have to tell the system at what point, if I haven't been filled, should I cancel that order. Okay, and there is a mechanism to do that in the spreadsheet called cancel working orders, and we've been using that. It works fine for if you place a single order, no problems. But as soon as you get more complex and want to do things like I automatically want to add under certain conditions, it breaks in interesting ways, and all solutions end up breaking something else. Okay, so what I did was went off and wrote a custom study to fulfill this purpose. All right, so you'll notice on this spreadsheet now, this is my beta spreadsheet. Cancel working orders, this cell is blank, and up here, cancel order if not filled is just no longer used, right? So, and I'm handling it a different way. And the way I'm handling it is with a custom study. And that study is called TRT order management. And it has some settings in it. And what it does is if you can do it two ways now. One is the number of bars, the other is the number of ticks. All right, so if the market moves 2 bars without getting filled, then it'll cancel the order. All right, or if it moves X number of ticks without getting filled, then it will cancel the order. So you can do it both ways now. What you see up here in the upper left is basically debug information on using this, which I've had running last week. We had a number of issues with it, but it appears to be working now. I'm going to switch to live next week, and then burn it in next week. Assuming there's no issues, I'll release it at the end of next week, which means the auto add system will go out, and we'll have to have a tutorial on how it works, because there's a lot here to understand. All right. I haven't quite had the day yet where that I need to really show that, yeah, this is a great idea. I got stopped out to a tick one day, and then what ends up happening is we're basically what we're doing here is, if we go back to our spreadsheets, if you look at these days and you go, all right, the days where I'm taking losses are this is just the randomness in the market. All right, and so I can't, if I can't solve, I'm not going to be able to solve randomness. All right. But on the days where I'm finding good entries, can we maximize those cases? All right. And so that's what we're doing here, which is, all right, can get into the market. All right. And then under certain conditions, like a pullback, add. All right. But then you have to be much more sophisticated in how you manage that trade. And I want it all automated. I don't want to have to stand. I don't want to have to sit here. And so what it does now is you'll place your normal order. And then if you move at least 30 ticks, then you get one of these behaviors. It'll add a contract automatically. All right. And automatically adjust the stop to break even. And then trail the stop to the zigzag. All right. Not some hard value, whatever the zigzag happens to be. All right. So that's what all of this stuff here is implementing. Everything in blue is implementing this auto add functionality. All right. Including how many times to add. All right. All right, so that's what I'll release next week, assuming that I don't have any issues with my new method for canceling unfilled orders. All right. There's an additional thing here that's unrelated to auto adding, but let's talk about it since it's there. We have seen some cases in the market where for reasons that you don't understand, you're in the market without a stop, and that's not okay. Ultimately, we've locked down why we see it happen, and so the specific cases are like, you could see it happen right here. Actually, let's say you got short right there. All right, with a 10 tick stop. Or let's say you got short right there. This is better. Right there with a 10 tick stop. All right. So the way the system works is you place an order and then you get filled. When you get filled, the system places the stop order and the target order. Okay. So there's time that passes between the time that you get filled and the time that your stop is placed. There is time that goes by. It's not zero time. If the market moves more than your stop amount in that time, then when you try to place a stop order, it's an invalid order because you've already passed that level, and that order gets rejected. And it sucks because you have an order. You're filled in the market without a stop now. Okay, so this is a case where there's a legitimate reason why your stop order isn't placed. All right, and there's nothing I can do about that in the market other than just not trade when it's crazy. So what I've done here is I've added this piece, max trade loss. So currently we have this concept of the maximum daily loss, where if you hit a certain level, the system will just not take any more trades. Now we have this piece here, max trade loss, where the system is looking at the open P&L on your trade. And if it's greater than or equal to that number, it'll cancel the trade. It'll flatten you. Okay. So this is an extra layer of protection between you and the daily risk limit you have at your broker. So in the case of what we just described, this is 60, means $60. If you placed an order here and the market, and then your stop placed, you tried to place your stop and it didn't get filled because the market moved too much, the spreadsheet would notice that your trade is underwater too much and it would just flatten you for whatever amount that is. Okay. So that's what this does. All right. So that's coming just sort of as a bonus with the auto add feature. Okay. That's it. That's all I have today. So let me see. Oh, the models. The models for this week for NQ, 2 have been built. And they've actually been uploaded, though I haven't sent the message out, so you can go get them if you want. One is the 30 target tick model, which is what I will be using. Yeah, so given that we're below this red line, I'm going to use that model. All right. Last week I was using a model built for volatile markets, 45 ticks, and you could see I didn't get a lot of trades as a result. So things have quieted down enough that that more volatile market model is not as useful. But I did build one anyway. I did modify it a little bit, so it's not built for 45 ticks. It uses a 40 tick target. Just in model construction, that turned out to be better. So when you download your models this week, you're going to see there's a NQ Rev 55 30 target and a Rev 55 40 target. All right. The default in the configuration file is the 30 target, okay, because that's what I'm planning on using starting Monday. But you'll be able to switch back and forth day by day if you want. If we come in Monday morning and the overnight range of the market was 100 points, then we can go, okay, I want to use this the model that's built for more volatile markets. All right, so you'll have a choice. All right, so those are up, and you can download them now. I just haven't sent the message out yet. What are your target and stop settings, Jim? I use a 10 tick stop and an 80 tick target with a 40 tick trail. Hang on, let me bring it up and I'll show you exactly. Here it is. Now I used to use a 20 tick trail, an 80 tick target. I used to use a 20 tick trail, and my problem was I kept getting stopped out just as the market was pulling back. All right, so I as part of the auto add feature, I changed this so that I'm giving it more room to pull back, and then when it, assuming I don't get stopped out, when it resumes, I'm going to add and then start trailing my stop to the new break even. Okay. So you don't have this feature now, Randy. You'll have to wait until I release this. All right. But the problem that you had, whatever it was, this system would have, the way it's set now, when you were underwater $60, it would have flattened you. So you have to be careful that if you're trading more than one contract, you adjust this value correctly. All right. I have it set to 60 because I'm assuming I use a $50 stop. And a one tick of slippage would be 55, so go one more than that. Okay. And flatten me. If I'm underwater, if the trade is down $60, something's wrong. All right, flatten me. Okay. On an ad, you should never be You should never lose money if you've added the way it's designed, because you don't add until you have enough distance to pay for it. So this minimum add distance is 30 ticks. You have to have 30 ticks of movement of profit in your trade before you can add. Then it will add, and it'll move the stop to break even for you automatically. All right, so this value here applies to your starting contract, starting number of contracts, starting, what is the risk you're willing to take in this trade, and add a little bit. That's what that is. Okay. Questions? Can we run both models at the same time on two different charts on the same server? You have to launch a second server is all. So if you wanted to run, you cannot run an NQ model for a 30 tick target and an NQ model for a 40 tick target on the same server. That won't work. All right, you'd have to duplicate this and change the port. And if you don't know how to do that, just contact me, and I'll show you how to do it. I'll be doing it next week, actually. I'll be running the live one with the 30 tick and the sim with the 40. What you're doing is you're just changing. You duplicate this folder, and then you change the port to something else. Usually 90 is what I use, 80, 90. And then the chart that you're using has to point to 80, 90. So that's done here in studies, in the machine learning prediction study. That port right there, 80, 80. This matches this spot right here. Where did it go? Here. You see that? This port here, 80, 80. Matches this here. Okay. So if you want to run a second NQ model, then you got to start it up on a different port. And to do that, you just got to start a different server. Okay, so you would duplicate that folder, change the port in the YAML file, in the config file, and then have this port here in the second chart that you're running. Have that port the same, and you can set all that up in advance and replay and test it, and you'll see and get it all working before the market starts up. I'm looking at questions. Okay, so that appears to be it for questions. Now, I have not yet done the normal testing I do when I create a new model, but because we're talking now, the models for next week are uploaded. If you want them, go get them. A message will come out later after I do my normal bit. Right. I always load them up, and you can see they're actually loaded up here, and then test it to make sure that everything works okay. Michael says, I've put a formula on J29 to look for J10, and if it is more than $60 to flatten. I can show you how I did it. And if you're listening to this and it confuses you, just ignore it. So J29 is if J10 is less than or equal to H13. That's all it says. Okay. Where H13 is the number I defined. Yes, and it works. I've tested it. It's easy to test too, Michael. Just do a replay and make your stop bigger than this amount, and you'll see it. You'll see it flatten on you. And if you look in the trade activity log, it'll tell you that that it exited, that it flattened, and that the source was the flattened order sell. Okay. All right, that is it for today. Any other questions?